Hello and welcome to Now Showing. This is a show that talks about the latest in cinema and what to watch and what to skip. In this episode, we have put together things that will help you plan your weekend. I'm Atika Farooqui. Let's start with the headlines. Runway 34 is an edge-of-the-seat thriller that deserves appreciation for its ambitious takeoff. Kunal Kemmu and Soha turn authors, talk about writing short stories for their daughter Inaya. And Amit Trivedi, Asees and Abhijit Srivastav talk about their new song and losing work because of not having enough followers on social media. Let's talk about Runway 34. Very rarely does one come across a Hindi film with a leading movie actor which dares to think differently, attempts a theme less thought of, and dares to portray the leading man in a not-so-likable character, where he's not infallible and does not portray only the white shades. I mean, he does have shades of vulnerability, grey and despair. Runway 34 is a sharp contrast of visual and verbal intensity in two halves. It's an action thriller that banks on good graphics, good cinematography and sharp writing. A highly competent but arrogant and overconfident pilot, Captain Vikrant Khanna, played by Ajay Devgan, is commanding a passenger flight between Dubai and Cochin. Based on true events from 2015, this flight enters into a fateful night where many human errors, an act of God, pilots' overconfidence and few wrong judgments risk the lives of 150 passengers on board that plane. The first half is unmistakably high adrenaline as the director Ajay Devgan himself here takes us to 35,000 feet above the sea level and the entire plot unfolds on that flight. One-tone passengers though, barring an aviation journalist who hid more than he showed and an elderly lady who was being flown in for her treatment in Cochin. The pilot has no backstory here though, has a wife and a child waiting for him at home, has been flying for 6 days, is tired but never flinching or fallible. His co-pilot is far less experienced than him, but she suggests some timely steps that could have stopped this debacle, but was silenced by a seemingly oversmart pilot who clearly knew his job better than her. Coupled with a few more mistakes by air traffic controllers, the flight starts to fall short of fuel in the skies. The diversions were uncalled for. The plane comes plummeting down to the ground. This half an hour was scary, and to be true, I was full of respect for the team behind the film. 30 minutes before the interval, the graphics by Naveen Paul, shot taking by Aseem Bajaj with multiple cams in a tiny cockpit, the sharp edit were truly good. We were literally holding our breath. What a fresh breath of air in Hindi cinema, wasn't it? The second half, film changes flavor and from the skies the film lands into an interrogation room, almost like a play. The narrative banking heavily on the discourse between the mulzim and the lawyer here. Amitabh Bachchan plays Narayan Vedant, the conscientious man who despises any callous pilot who puts himself before his passengers. He is committed to barring the captain from flying in future. What lies ahead is the film's essence. The best points about the film are it's very close to portraying the real world of aviation. Writer Sandeep Kevlani and Amil Kian Khan have attempted the subject with friskness that it deserves, with no extra decorations to the movie, the script. The visuals by Aseem Bajaj are truly captivating. The entire sequence of the flight struggling for survival in the face of a cyclone, winds, zero visibility is truly well put together. Amitabh Bachchan plays his character so well that you start rooting for this man at the cost of the protagonist, played by Ajay here. The research has been done well enough and you do get to know several new terminologies and facts about flying and the aviation industry. Next time you fly, you will remember this film. What's underwhelming though is why the captain is so arrogant. Well, the roots to this attitude. Why did he take several wrong decisions even while being so intelligent and experienced? No answers here. I would have wanted the pilot to be more gullible in front of the scrutinizer. It would have connected me more to the reality of the subject. All I can say, it can be watched with family and it's a brave effort towards creating something new. Claps for Ajay Devgan here. After You, Me Aur Hum and Shivai, here he truly succeeds as a director. I suggest that you do board this flight. Moving on, actors Kunal Kemmu and Soha Ali Khan have recently turned authors with their first children's book titled Inni and Bobo Find Each Other, which is actually first of the three-part series by the couple. My colleague Vishal Chatkara spoke to Soha and Kunal about this short story and what are the key elements needed for a good children's story.
Kunal and Soha, both of you have turned author with your first book, which is a children's book titled Inni and Bobo. The book tells the story of this little girl named Inni who loves animal and how she adopts a little puppy from an adoption center, and this puppy becomes her best friend. So who came up with this original story, and when both of you decided to adapt this into a book?
The idea came from me actually because Inaya is somebody who loves reading books and, actually not reading, but listening to stories and looking at books. But she loves everybody to read her books and tell her stories. And Soha has been, from a very early on age, been doing that. So what I used to do is I used to make up stories as opposed to holding a book in my hand. I would just tell her stories. I would just make them up on the go. And then we started playing a game where she would just give me characters. Like she could say a bunny rabbit, a dragon, and and the sky. So I would kind of make a story on that. And in one such instances, I made a story which was about a little girl who finds this little puppy, and they strike a friendship and they become best friends forever. And every time I would tell her a story, sometimes she would kind of say that, when Mama reads a story, I can see pictures, but why can't I see pictures of these stories? And that's where the whole idea came from. And I was like, I asked Soha, I said, should we get somebody to maybe draw a book for her birthday for some of the stories that I tell her? And so I said, but why don't we write a book, which is a picture book that, parents can read to their children, because these stories will, resonate with a lot of families.
It said that, writing is rewriting. Did you have to rewrite Inni and Bobo many times?
Not many times, because it's a very short story. It's only about 2,500 words at most, or less. But we wanted to make sure that the style of writing is very simple and direct. That, when children are being read to, they shouldn't say, what does this mean? What does that mean? They can learn one or two words. And most importantly, that they should feel excited or nervous or happy when they read the book.
Has Inaya read the book and does she know that little girl in the book is her?
Absolutely. We were joking because they're learning about storytelling in school as well. And, the principal character, the hero, what does that mean? And she keeps saying, I'm the hero of this story. Because Inni, of course, rescues Bobo. And she's very excited to see the things that she also must have imagined when Kunal was telling her the story for the first time, to see Bobo and to see herself.
How much time you all spent while writing this story? And were there times where you said, okay, let me give a new spin to what you have narrated to Inaya?
Actually, we've thought about this as not just one story, but one in a series of stories. So there is really no ending. This can go on. And they can have many adventures, these two. In terms of this, of course, it had to be a finite first. The basic skeleton has remained the same, I would say.
Yeah, the story didn't actually take a long time to write because, like Soha said, it's not so many words. We actually wrote this first book, at least the story for this, in less than 2 hours. And then it's the illustration that kind of took a few months to find the right illustrator and then, get these characters right. I'm sure now that the looks and, how everybody looks is set, it'll be a faster turnaround for the second book. And we're hoping to get that out in September.
Both of you gave us 99. That was way back in 2009. It was really a trendsetter because it was a movie I remember released during IPL. It was one of the first movie which was a hit. My favorite dialogue is when Kunal comes and tells Soha's your character that see man जिसने ये मारा है see हाल मैंने किया है.
Yeah.
We were just watching that scene today. Actually.
We were just watching that same scene today and laughing.
How do you look back at 99 and is there a plan to team up with Raj GK again?
Raj and DK was so refreshing in their writing as directors and producers. Kunal is working with them, of course, and I enjoy watching their content and I would love to work with them again. I just think that they bring something of their personality to their writing, which is just a little bit out there.
I think it was very interesting working with them because I think they and I instantly connected because their sense of humor is so in sync with how I think or what my idea of humor is. And hence, we've always been friends and we've always collaborated on things. Like I've always known stuff that they're doing, they've always known stuff that I'm doing. But to answer your question, yes, I am doing something with them right now, which we've actually finished. It's going to be announced soon.
Talking about stories and writing, what are the 3 key elements required for a good children's story?
I think when it comes to writing for children, and if this is your target group 2 to 6, it can be something that has to be short firstly, because their attention spans are only that long. And then evocative, because you will often be performing. You'll often be reading it out in a way that, they'll be watching your faces to see your expressions and how you articulate the words. So, that's why we try to use words like whiz, or use comparisons like, Bobo's fur was the color of a chocolate biscuit. Things that they can relate to, and humor. Things that can make them laugh out loud are gold.
Which movies have you shown it to your daughter? And is there a particular favorite film she has, or a series?
Her first favorite film was Frozen, that obviously she saw in 3 installments because she doesn't watch TV at a stretch for that long. Other than that, it's Moana is one of her other favorite films. She didn't see the film, but she fell in love with the songs of Sound of Music. Currently, Peppa Pig has been like an all-time favorite. So that's like,
she's actually a little overwhelmed by the audiovisual medium. She finds it a little bit scary sometimes. The music and some of the themes have, there's pain, there's conflict, there's fear in a lot of them. So she honestly likes things that are familiar. So she can watch the same thing over and over again. And currently it's a show called Gabby's Dollhouse. I'm sure you're not familiar with it. You have no reason to be. But that's what she's watching right now.
Now, actor Nimrat Kaur grabbed a lot of appreciation in Lunchbox. After that, it's been a consistent graph with some nice work every year. She played the character of Bimla Devi in the recently released Netflix film Dasvi, and she's been getting a lot of praise for that too. Nimrat, who's currently busy shooting the 2nd season of Apple TV Plus's show Foundation, spoke to my colleague Vishal Chatkara about acting in the West and about her acting approach, especially while appealing to a global audience.
Congratulations, Nimrat, for a winning performance in Dasvi. That's the film that was trending on #1 on Netflix even till last night. Everyone is talking about your performance and about Bimla Devi. What is the feedback that you are getting for your role and for the movie?
Well, I think the most fun feedback that I've got is that I'm unrecognizable and that people have not been able to place who I am at points, which is really fun, because as an actor, it's really fun to disappear behind roles, and you don't very often get those opportunities because, look, I'm going to take myself to every part. There's going to be a little bit of me everywhere. But this was, I think, an opportunity where I could travel the furthest away possible from being Nimrat. And I tried to do that, and it's really been amazing to see how much love, the film is getting and how much love the part is getting.
What was it about Bimla Devi or Bimo that you actually made her so likable, even though she tried to do a lot of things to ensure that her husband doesn't come out from the jail?
Yeah. For me, I'll be honest, she was never a villain. And I don't think even a villain thinks they're a villain. For me, she was always a child who was never really allowed to have fun. I somehow caught on to a childlike quality in her when I was reading the part. I was like, she's just a very sweet, simple person. Her best friends are her cows and buffaloes. And then she's given, this insane power. And now she just wants to have fun. Sure. It's not so much as a menacing or like a big plot, to control the state or none of that. She just wants to remain, she's married to the power really, and the fun of all that it brings with.
There's a lot of excitement around the season 2 of Apple TV Plus's hit sci-fi series Foundation, in which you'll be seen playing the character of Yana Seldon. What more can you tell us about it? Is that the show that you're most excited about right now? And how long we have to wait to see the season 2?
Well, hopefully not terribly long. I think maybe by the end of this year, because they're still shooting. it's a genre that's very, very close to my heart. I love science fiction a lot. And, working with Jared Harris, who's my co-actor in the scenes that I've been given, it's been marvelous. He's an institution in himself, He's somebody that you can't stop marveling at because he's always working at making even the smallest of moments better. Alex Graves is directing the episodes that I'm in, who's also someone who's directed me in Homeland.
Homeland and Wayward Pine are the two big international shows that you've been part of. Does it require a different approach when you're appealing to a global audience?
Culturally, it's a different context, but I don't think it really makes a difference to one's acting per se, or, one's style of acting. I think what happens is that, while as Indians, we're used to being very expressive, physically, we are very emotive, There are those kind of things that you just have to bear in mind because you are not playing someone Indian at all times, And if a part requires me to be a little bit more contained and curbed, that's probably the only thing. But human beings are human beings. We express in the same emotional language, and you can recognize that. I mean, if we are moved by some performance in Korean cinema or Iranian cinema, we don't look at where they're coming from. It's all felt here. It's all in the writing half the time, and you just have to surrender to the situation and just go with that.
Talking about your acting process, what is that one thing that you always carry with you on the sets?
Well, my script. I don't trust, the scripts that come to me on. So I always have little things written on my scenes. So I have to leave the vanity van or the trailers or whatever with my pages. I feel very lost if I don't have my pages. I can't leave. And my set shoes, because often the footwear required to be worn by the character is uncomfortable.
Okay.
And I have these pair of shoes, which is my comfort zone, and they travel with me from set to set to set. So these two things.
Sure. And finally, Nimrat, is there a sequel planned to Dasvi that could be called Barbie?
Well, that's a question for the makers. I'd be more than delighted, of course, but that's a question for them.
Thank you so much and best of luck.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very, very much.
Time for a short break on Now Showing. When we come back, we have Amit Trivedi and Asees Kaur with their new chartbuster. Welcome back to Now Showing. I'm Atika Farooqui. Now, Amit Trivedi and singers Asees Kaur and Abhijit Srivastav have their new song out titled Boli Tujhse, featuring Tahir Raj Bhasin and Shivangi Joshi in the music video. My colleague Vishal Chatkara caught up with the creators of the song and got them talking about creating this number. And can an artist today afford to ignore social media? And how has it contributed to their success? Listen in.
बोली तुझसे मैं तो कितनी बार कुछ दिन छुटे अभी मिलते हैं यार बोली तुझसे मैं तो कितनी बार लोग बाग पूछते हैं खामखा सवाल छेड़ते हैं तेरे नाम से नाम तेरा जो मुझसे जुड़ गया लो शहर भर को किस्सा मिल गया उनके तानों का करियो ना ख्याल इश्क ही क्या जो होना कुछ बवाल.
Congratulations, Amit Trivedi, Asees Kaur and Abhijit Srivastava. That was, of course, your new song titled Boli Tujhse, which is written by Raj Shekhar. We can really feel the emotions which is beautifully expressed in this song. So, to start with, how it all started and which force brought you all together?
The force is called Viral Records. They wanted to do a love song. I had this love song with me. I created this love song as per their brief. They had a beautiful thought in their head. Played them. They liked it. We went to Rajshekhar sir. Rajshekhar gave his spin on it, and Asees came to the studio. While I was not there, she was here. Abhijit was in Lucknow. I was in some other place. Raj Bhai was in some other place. So, चार अलग-अलग दिशाओं में लोगों ने मिलके गाना बनाया.
Abhijit, whom you were imagining while singing this song?
जो लिरिक्स थे एंड जो कॉम्पोजिशन थी उसको सुन के ही ऐसा जो फील आ रहा था वो बहुत प्योर था. सो मुझे सर के साथ जब भी रिकॉर्ड करता हूँ, वेदर बीइंग इन अ स्टूडियो या फिर अगर वो कुछ भेजते भी हैं, जैसे आई वाज इन लखनऊ तो वहां से किया था. सो वो मेलोडी में ही इतना सुकून और मजा आ जाता है अगर वो कोई लव सॉन्ग है या जैसा भी है. सो वो आपको ना ज्यादा कुछ सोचने की जरूरत नहीं है, वो गाने की धुन और ये सारी चीजें आपको बहुत हेल्प करती है, मुझे ऐसा लगता है.
You know, you all are rockstars who are either creating music or touring across the world doing concerts. So what is the most non-glamorous part of making process? The things that no one talks about.
I think मुझे कुछ भी non-glamorous नहीं लगता. I thoroughly enjoy the process. स्पेशली जब हम सेट पर काम भी कर रहे होते हैं, किसी को नहीं पता होता हम कितनी मेहनत करते हैं कि क्या साउंड होगा, क्योंकि गाने हम अपने हिसाब से रीअरेंज करते हैं, रीप्रोग्राम करते हैं अकॉर्डिंग टू आवर सेट एंड आवर ऑडियंसेस प्रेफरेंसेस. मेरे लिए म्यूजिक मतलब कुछ ऐसा है कि इबादत वाला सीन है, करो तो दिल से करो, अच्छे से करो, नहीं तो मत करो, छेड़ो मत, ऐसा वाला सीन.
बस बहुत सही सीन. ये ऐसे होना चाहिए, छेड़ो मत. बहुत लोग छेड़ रहे.
You know, today we are living in a digital age. Do you think an artist can afford to ignore social media? And how do you think that social media has contributed to your success?
You really can't ignore social media right now because I think the era is of the era is already digitalized. आप चाहो ना चाहो आपको ultimately करना ही पड़ता है. But I always find good things, and I think I can interact with my own fans individually and मुझे एकदम एग्जैक्ट क्या कहते हैं फीडबैक मिलता है जब भी मेरा कोई नया गाना आता है, बिकॉज़ पीपल टेल मी कि ये अच्छा नहीं लगा, ये अच्छा लगा है.
मैंने एक चीज देखा है, आपका बिजनेस भी जनरेट होता है आपके फॉलोअर्स के काउंट के हिसाब से.
बहुत ब्रांड्स आते हैं, ये सब मैंने सुना है.
हाँ, तो इट्स बिकम सो इम्पोर्टेंट दैट्स अ अर्निंग टूल नाउ. इफ यू हैव मोर ऑफ द फॉलोअर्स, मोर रिचर यू आर, बिकॉज़ दैट मेनी एंडोर्समेंट्स यू गेट. मतलब मैंने खुद देखा है लोगों करते हुए कि अरे इसके फॉलोअर्स कम है, इसको नहीं लेते, इसको नहीं बुलाते गाने, इसको नहीं बुलाते एक्टिंग करने.
ऑफ कोर्स मेरे साथ हुआ है सर. मेरे फॉलोअर्स उसमें बहुत कम थे, मुझे मेरी बजाय किसी और को दिया गया था गाना क्योंकि उसके फॉलोअर्स
ज्यादा थे
जी.
और आजकल मुझको भी कहा जाता है कि ये सिंगर को, ये फलाना सिंगर को कास्ट करो या एक्टर को कास्ट करो बिकॉज इनके फॉलोअर्स ज्यादा है. तो अभी जब बिजनेस ही पूरा रन कर रहा है इस पे, आपका ये आपके पेट पे, आपके घर पर आ गई ये बात, घर चलाने पे आ गई ये बात, तो देन यू हैव टू succumb to, yeah.
Sure. And finally, Amit, April 30th is World Jazz Day. You actually composed the soundtrack of Bombay Velvet. That had the full jazz music, and jazz music was the character in that film. You said that album has always been very special for you. You know, I love two tracks in that album. The first one is Sylvia and other is Behrupia, even Dharam Dharam. So what was your most enduring memory of creating music for Bombay Velvet? And what was it that you discovered about jazz music?
First of all, I'm not a jazz musician. मेरे को जैज आता नहीं था. I had to learn, I had to do workshops, I had to learn jazz, I had to understand a lot about it. And we were dealing with standard jazz. I'm talking about 50s, 60s. तो उस वक्त जो भी है, नीना सिमोन हुए, ला फिट्जगेराल्ड, फ्रैंक सिनात्रा, बहुत सारे ऐसे जैज आर्टिस्ट है. उनको सुनना, उनको सीखना, उनको समझना, लोगों से मिलना, थोड़ा पढ़ना, वर्कशॉप्स करना, और अब एक नई दुनिया सीखने मिली थी. और फिर जब मैं प्राग गया था, we were supposed to go to New Orleans. New Orleans is supposed to be the hub of jazz. For some reason मेरा US visa में कुछ problem हो गया. So the next best place was to go to Europe, and that was Prague. And Prague is another such mecca of musicians. So dealing with these likes of people, musicians who on a daily basis, either they are playing with Hans Zimmer or John Williams or these, or they are coming for your session, talking to them. Oh my God, I can't even tell you that those 10 days in Prague, the best 10 days that I have spent doing this album. And then, of course, when coming back to Bombay, we had Neeti Mohan, who had done very vigorous training process. And then Anushka Sharma also, she had to be in the studio because she was playing the jazz singer. This is by far one of my most favorite albums. The process that I've enjoyed the most, that was just Abhijit talking about. Jazz की audience पूरे world में एक या 2% है. और हम बात करें इंडिया की, यहाँ तो चांस ही नहीं. तो मैंने मतलब भले ही चले, अभी हुआ था, डिप्रेशन हुआ था, तकलीफ हुई थी कि बिल्कुल कुछ नहीं चला, पर मजा जो आया ना, वो ना जो पीस.
It's a fact. I'm sorry I'm late to the party. I love Bhairupia. I was listening to it, and Dharam Dharam. I'm maybe the minority, but I really enjoyed that album, and that's.
I'm happy. I have like many such minority people come and told me how crazy they are behind this album, and that's like enough, because first of all, for me it's a big deal to do jazz music, and I've done it, and I've gotten approval from the right people who understand jazz, right from the people who were in Prague. They were all either somebody from German, somebody from other different parts of Europe. The conductor himself was from UK, from London. So they were appreciating it and they were talking great things about it. अरे हो गया भाई, मैंने अपना कर्तव्य निभा लिया है, मैंने अपना काम कर लिया, बाकी जो होगा वो तो भी मेरे हाथ में नहीं है, तो भगवान के हाथ.
That's all in this episode. Hope you liked the show, and we wish that cinema becomes a more integral part of your lives because it has a double role. It inspires and it cures. I'm Atika saying goodbye. See you again.